allegedly, the PS5 pricing will not be affected in any way by COVID-19.
Okay.
So what I read from this, okay, a lot of people do what you just did. They go, okay,
It shouldn't
whatever.
have been. What do you mean price affected?
Well, here's what you need to understand. There's basically three scenarios if this is the case, right? So I look at my variables. I have a constant now. The price is going to be the same. That means either A, Sony's going to take a loss on producing the number of systems that they wanted to, right? Because what we need to understand is COVID-19 did impact supply chain and manufacturing. You can't get around that. To lose a bunch of time and materials on manufacturing, the only way to effectively or appropriately make up for that is to dump a bunch of time in, right? Additional time, overtime, which costs money, or to get supplies at a higher price because now you're getting stuff that's at a higher demand, right? With a lower supply. So if they're going to create as many initial launch units as they initially planned, right? I said initially a bunch of times, initially. But if they're gonna send out as many launch units as they had planned for, right? They lost time, they lost supplies. It's going to cost them more money, which means that if they do that, they're going to take a loss by not increasing the price on the consoles. The other side of it is that they're not going to increase the production, and then there's going to be a lower quantity of consoles at launch, which means scarcity, right? Lower supply.
I just figured that was what was going to happen anyways.
And then the third thing, which they've said isn't going to happen, right, is that they could have produced more units at not a loss by increasing the price. But they took that out. So I guess really what this tells us in an indirect way is that there were these three scenarios, and analysts predicted that there would be scarcity. So that's probably the most likely case, because what we're hearing, the rumors in the industry of the price point of the Xbox are to undermine by $50 to $100 the PS5. And Sony was already talking about taking a thin margin, or analysts were already talking about Sony taking a thin margin to a loss. So they can't take a bigger loss on units to produce the same amount. So it seems like a very indirect story. And like for you and I, this just seems like a no-brainer. Okay, there's either going to be scarcity, which we've talked about on like 3 or 4 different podcasts, or Sony's going to take a bigger loss. But a lot of people are just saying like, yeah, I expected the price not to go up, and they're not thinking about all of these other kind of what this means, right, in the grand scheme of things. A lot of times with news, you can take a little tidbit of information, and if you start to put it together with the rest of the pieces of information you've had for a while, you end up with like a clear picture. The puzzle starts to go together, and you can kind of get a good idea of what's going on. So pre-order your systems next Monday when your local GameStop starts taking pre-orders.
They would never raise the price on that thing. Like, that's just...
No, they can't, especially with Sony. I mean, especially with Xbox coming out and basically they didn't announce it, but with it leaking that the price point's going to be $400 when their price point was already going to be $500. They can't go to $600, right?
Yeah, but even then, what do you do when everything normalizes? You just bump it down to $500? Like, people are going to go insane if you do that.
No, that happens all the time. Think about it. Think about a 1-year run into consoles when they start to come down in price.
Well, there's a difference between a sale price and we had to bump the price up because of this pandemic, and now things are normal, so we're going to bump the regular price down now to whatever it was after a year.
No, that happens all the time. You get a console that launches at $500, and then within a year it costs them less to make it, and the price comes down. Not a sales price, like it just
but what I'm talking about specifically is because of this pandemic.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is no price has been released, so there's nothing to say that they couldn't make it $600 at launch. The reason they're not making it $600 at launch,
we all know what it is
because everybody is not dumb enough.